Her brother lived in my house rent-free for months, then told me, "You need to respect the rules of my sister's house." I just nodded, but when I gave them both a formal 30-day eviction notice, they learned whose house it really was. It all came to a head over a thermostat. That's the most ridiculous part. Not some grand betrayal, but the temperature of my own house. A house I bought with my own money, 5 years before I even met my girlfriend, Sarah. Her brother, Kevin, has been living with us for 4 months. The original agreement, brokered by a tearful Sarah, was that he would stay for a month, maybe 2 tops, while he got back on his feet after losing his job. In the 4 months since, the only thing Kevin has gotten back on is my couch, where he has successfully fused with the cushions. His only job seems to be pioneering new methods of leaving a trail of snack food wrappers in his wake. I came home from work last night, a long 12-hour day on a construction site, to find the house cranked up to a balmy 80 degrees. It was like walking into a jungle. Kevin was sprawled on the couch in shorts playing a video game on my 75-inch television, a bead of sweat on his forehead. "Kev, what's with the heat?" I asked, trying to keep the exhaustion out of my voice. He didn't even pause his game. "Felt it chill, man," he said. I walked over to the thermostat and turned it down to a more reasonable 70. A few seconds later, the air conditioning kicked on with a grateful sigh. Kevin paused his game. He actually turned and looked at me, his face a mask of annoyance. "Dude, what are you doing?" I had it set there for a reason. "It's 80 degrees in here, Kevin. I'm not paying to air condition the entire neighborhood." And that's when he said it. The line that future historians will point to as the precise moment my relationship ended. He stood up, puffed out his chest, and with a completely straight face told me, "Look, man, you're a guest here too, in a way. You need to respect the rules of my sister's house." I just stared at him. The sheer, uncut audacity of it was breathtaking. It was like a work of art. The words just hung in the air, shimmering with a kind of surreal, idiotic majesty. My house. The one my name is on the deed for. The one I pay the mortgage, the taxes, and the ridiculously high utility bills for, was now his sister's house, and I needed to respect the rules. Sarah walked in from the kitchen at that moment, holding a bowl of microwaved popcorn, clearly for Kevin. She saw the tension. "What's going on?" "Your brother just informed me that this is your house, and I need to follow his rules," I said, my voice completely flat. Sarah just rolled her eyes, but not at him, at me. "Oh my God, don't be so dramatic," she said. "He just likes it a little warmer. Don't be a baby about it." She didn't defend me. She didn't correct her freeloading brother. She sided with him. In that moment, it all clicked into place. They weren't 2 separate problems. They were a team, a parasitic entity that had attached itself to my life. They saw me not as a partner or a host, but as a resource, an inconvenient landlord who just happened to live in their house. I didn't argue. I didn't yell. I just looked at Kevin, then at Sarah. I nodded slowly. "You're right," I said. "My mistake." I walked past them, went upstairs to our bedroom, and closed the door. They probably thought they'd won. They probably thought I was sulking, that I'd get over it by morning. They were wrong. I wasn't angry anymore. I was an architect, and I was quietly and methodically drawing up the blueprints for their complete and total removal from my life. I sat down at my desk and opened my laptop. The first thing I did was search for landlord-tenant lawyer. The second thing I did was search for the proper legal eviction process in my state for a tenant at will, which is what they had become. They thought they were making the rules. They had no idea they were about to be introduced to a much more official rulebook, and I was going to enjoy reading it to them. Update 1. It's been a week since the Great Thermostat Summit of last Tuesday. The response to my original post was overwhelming. Thanks for confirming that I'm not, in fact, the crazy one here. The day after Kevin declared my home a sovereign state ruled by his sister, I had a consultation with a lawyer. He was a sharp, no-nonsense guy who confirmed what my research had told me. Since Sarah and Kevin had lived in the house for more than 30 days and had established residency, getting mail here, etc., I couldn't just change the locks. I had to follow the formal eviction process. It was a minor inconvenience, but doing it by the book would make the final outcome legally ironclad. That was all that mattered. My lawyer drafted 2 identical, formal 30-day notices to quit. Not a friendly letter. An official legal document citing termination of tenancy with their full names and a move-out date exactly 30 days from the date of service. I chose to serve them on Friday night. I wanted their weekend to be ruined, just as they had ruined so many of mine. I came home from work and found them in their usual positions. Sarah on her laptop at the kitchen table, online shopping, and Kevin on the couch, yelling at teenagers in his video game. I didn't say a word. I just walked over to Sarah and placed the folded document on top of her laptop. Then I walked over to the couch and placed the other one on Kevin's chest. "What's this?" Sarah asked, annoyed at the interruption. "It's a legal notice," I said calmly. "You should read it." She unfolded it. Her eyes scanned the first few lines, the legal jargon, the bolded words, "notice to quit." Her face went from confused to pale to a deep, blotchy red. "What is this?" she finally whispered, her voice trembling. "You're evicting me?" Kevin had paused his game and was reading his own copy. "Dude, what the hell? You can't evict us. This is Sarah's house." The delusion was apparently terminal. "No, Kevin," I said, my voice as cold and steady as I could make it. "This is my house. The deed is in my name. The mortgage is in my name. The bills are in my name. You are both tenants at will, and your tenancy has been terminated. You have 30 days to vacate the premises. It is all perfectly legal." Sarah finally found her voice, and it was several octaves higher than usual. "You're ending our relationship over the thermostat? Are you insane? You're throwing me out over a stupid fight?" "No, Sarah," I said. "The thermostat was just a symptom. I'm ending this because you and your brother have made it clear that you see me as a walking wallet, not a partner. I'm ending this because your brother, a man who has not contributed a single dollar to this household, had the audacity to tell me to respect the rules in my own home. And I'm ending this because you stood there and defended him. This has been coming for a long time." The tears started then, but they weren't tears of sadness. They were tears of pure, frustrated rage. She started screaming about the years she had put into our relationship, how I was a cruel, heartless monster. Kevin chimed in, blustering about his rights and how he was going to sue me. I just stood there and let them burn themselves out. When they were finally done, I said, "The notice is legal. A copy has been filed with the court. You have 30 days. I suggest you start packing." The rest of the weekend was a living hell, which is exactly what I expected. They tried everything. The silent treatment, the loud, pointed phone calls to their mother, where Sarah would sob about how I was throwing them out on the street for no reason. Their mother called me, of course, and I calmly explained the situation. She tried to guilt-trip me, but I just kept repeating, "They have 30 days. My decision is final." The house has now been divided into armed camps. They have barricaded themselves in the guest room and Sarah's old office. The atmosphere is thick with resentment. They think this is a negotiation. They think I will break. They are about to learn how wrong they are. 28 days left. Update 2. We are now 20 days into the 30-day eviction period, and the desperation tactics have escalated in ways that are almost comical. They genuinely believed I would cave. Every day that I don't, their panic grows. The first week was about psychological warfare. They would deliberately leave messes in the kitchen. They'd use every single dish and leave them in the sink. They'd blast music from the guest room at all hours. I didn't engage. I bought paper plates, put a lock on my bedroom door, and invested in a very good pair of noise-canceling headphones. Every mess they made, I photographed, dated, and saved to a file labeled evidence. When the passive aggression didn't work, Sarah switched to emotional manipulation. She would leave old photos of us around the house. She would try to start conversations about the good times. She even tried to cook me my favorite meal one night and act so out of character that I was momentarily stunned. "I was wrong," she said, her voice soft and pleading. "We can fix this. Just tear up those papers. Let Kevin stay a little longer until he finds a job. We can go back to how things were." "The person you were with is gone, Sarah," I told her, not touching the food. "You and your brother killed him. You have 22 days left." The biggest shift happened when they realized the financial reality of their situation. I had, of course, immediately separated all our finances. The joint account was closed. Her supplementary credit card was canceled. I changed all the passwords to the streaming services, the Amazon account, everything. The gravy train had not only left the station, it had been decommissioned and sold for scrap. Sarah's part-time job as a social media consultant brings in just enough to cover her car payment and her online shopping addiction. It's not nearly enough to afford a 2-bedroom apartment for her and her deadbeat brother. Kevin, it turns out, has not applied for a single job in the 4 months he's lived here. His plan to get back on his feet apparently involved my feet and my wallet. Last week, they tried a more direct approach. I came home to find Sarah, Kevin, and their parents sitting in my living room. An ambush. Michael, her father, began, trying to sound reasonable. "We think this has gone far enough. You've made your point. Sarah is sorry. Now, let's be adults and tear up this silly eviction notice." "There's nothing silly about it," I said. "It's a legal document, and it's not up for discussion." "You are putting my son out on the street," her mother cried. "Your son is a 30-year-old man who has been living off me for 4 months, I replied. "He is your responsibility, not mine. As of 12 days from now, he will be your problem to solve." The conversation devolved from there. They accused me of being cruel, of betraying Sarah. They just couldn't grasp the core concept. Their children's comfort was not my legal or moral obligation. They had overplayed their hand so badly that they had lost the entire game. As they were leaving, defeated, her father pulled me aside. "You'll regret this," he hissed. "The only thing I regret," I said, looking him dead in the eye, "is not doing this 3 months ago." They are now in a state of frantic activity. They are finally looking for apartments and discovering that their budget gets them a shoebox in a bad part of town. The reality of what they have lost, a beautiful free home, is crashing down on them. 10 days left. I've already started stocking up on packing tape and boxes. Not for them, for me. I plan on having this entire house professionally deep cleaned and purified the moment they are gone. Final update. The 30-day countdown has concluded and the freeloaders have been launched. I'm writing this from my blessedly quiet, clean, and empty house. The sense of peace is indescribable. The last 10 days were a blur of pathetic bargaining and frantic packing. They finally realized I was not bluffing. The closer the deadline got, the more their entitled rage was replaced by a kind of pathetic, whimpering fear. They couldn't find an apartment they deemed suitable on their budget, which was a shock to them. Apparently, most landlords expect tenants to have a steady income and a decent credit score, 2 things they lacked as a team. On the final day, I took no chances. As my lawyer had advised, I had a sheriff's deputy scheduled to arrive at noon, the exact moment the eviction became legally enforceable, to supervise their removal and prevent any last-minute drama or destruction of property. They were still frantically throwing things into trash bags when the deputy knocked on the door. The sight of a uniformed officer on the porch seemed to finally crush their last bit of resistance. The fight was completely gone from their eyes. Watching them haul their cheap furniture and bags of clothes out of my house was a surreal experience. Every box they carried out felt like a physical weight being lifted from my own shoulders. Their parents arrived in a rented U-Haul, their faces grim and angry. They wouldn't even look at me. They just helped their defeated children load up their lives. The final, most satisfying moment came as Kevin was carrying out the last box. He stopped on the porch, looked back at me, and with a spiteful sneer, said, "You're going to be lonely in this big house all by yourself." The deputy, a big guy with a deadpan expression, just raised an eyebrow. "Son," he said, his voice dripping with boredom, "I think he'll manage." Kevin's face turned bright red, and he scurried away. It was a perfect, understated end to his reign of terror. The aftermath has been exactly what they deserved. They moved back in with their parents. From what I've heard through a mutual friend, it's a complete disaster. Their parents' small, quiet suburban home has been turned into a war zone. Kevin and Sarah, accustomed to living in my spacious house with no rules, are chafing under their parents' roof. They are reportedly still unemployed, still entitled, and now they are their parents' problem. About a month after they left, I got a text from a number I didn't recognize. It was their mother. It wasn't an angry tirade. It was one simple sentence: "I think I understand now." I didn't reply. My revenge wasn't loud or explosive. It was quiet, legal, and absolute. I didn't just kick them out. I forced them to confront the consequences of their own entitlement. They thought the world, and specifically me, owed them a comfortable life. They learned that a life of comfort is something you build, not something you leech from others. They had a golden ticket, and they threw it away because they were too arrogant to be grateful. I've spent the last month reclaiming my space. I had the entire house repainted. I sold the couch Kevin had colonized and bought a new one. I can set my thermostat to whatever temperature I damn well please. The silence is the best part. No loud video games, no passive-aggressive sighs, no sense of being used. They tried to make my house theirs. They tried to make their rules my rules. But in the end, a piece of paper, a deed, and then an eviction notice was more powerful than all their delusion and entitlement combined. They didn't just learn whose house it was. They learned what it costs to lose a home you never deserved in the first place. And that, my friends, is a lesson you can't put a price on. After 27 years of marriage, I found a message thread she forgot to delete on her Facebook. It was with a man she slept with 3 months after our wedding. When I confronted her, she said, "That was so long ago. Why ruin everything now?" I didn't yell, didn't argue, just packed a bag and left. 2 weeks later, she was sitting with our kids, trying to explain why Dad didn't come home. This is an interesting one. A story of a man who discovered his wife's betrayal after 27 years of marriage. Listen till the end and let me know what you think of his decision in the comments. Don't forget to like and subscribe. It's strange how your whole life can change in a single moment. Not from something dramatic like a car crash or a health diagnosis, but from a simple mistake. A forgotten message thread on a Facebook account left open. I never thought I'd be posting here. At 58, I'm probably twice the age of most of you. But I need to get this off my chest. And my fishing buddies aren't exactly the heart-to-heart types. I'm sitting in a small rental apartment right now, surrounded by boxes I haven't bothered to unpack yet. The few pictures I brought are still face down in a drawer. Can't bear to look at them. 27 years of marriage, and it feels like I never knew her at all. Let me back up. I'm Frank, retired military, now working as a safety inspector for a construction company. My wife, soon-to-be ex-wife, Nancy, and I got married young. I was 24, she was 22. Had our first kid a year later, then 2 more spaced out over the next 5 years. We weren't perfect, but we were solid. At least that's what I thought. Our oldest just turned 26, middle one's 23, and our youngest is in her sophomore year of college. Good kids, all of them. I'd die for them. Which is why this is tearing me apart. It was a normal Tuesday. Nancy had gone to her book club, and I was paying bills at her desk. She always leaves her laptop open. She's terrible with passwords, so she just keeps Facebook logged in. I've never snooped before. Never had reason to. But as I was getting up, I accidentally bumped the mouse, and the screen came to life. That's when I saw it. A message thread with a name I didn't recognize. Alan Westmore. The preview showed, "Remember that weekend at the lake house? Never forgot how you..." I shouldn't have clicked. But after 27 years, I thought I'd earned the right to know who the hell Alan was. The thread was recent, started about 6 months ago, but they were talking about something that happened a long time ago. So I scrolled up and read from the beginning. "Nancy Palmer, is that really you?" "Alan, yes, it's me. Married name is Collier now. How are you?" "Can't believe I found you. Divorced, 2 kids in college. You?" "Still married to Frank. 3 kids, oldest is 26 now." "Wow, so you got married right after. You know, ancient history." "Not to me. Remember that weekend at the lake house? Never forgot how you felt in my arms. 3 days of heaven." My heart stopped. I checked the dates they were referring to. 3 months after our wedding. 3 months. I kept reading, my hands shaking. We were young and stupid. I was confused. Confused enough to spend 3 days in bed with me while your husband was away? Stop. I shouldn't even be talking to you. But you are. Ever wonder what would have happened if you'd left him then? When you said you were going to? When she said she was going to leave me? I had no memory of any rough patch 3 months into our marriage. No fights, no signs. We were newlyweds, for Christ's sake. There was more. Pages of it. Reminiscing. Flirting. Him asking if she was happy. Her saying happy enough. Him asking if she ever thought about him over the years. Her saying sometimes, when things were tough. Then the kicker. I'm going to be in town for business next month, we should get dinner. No, Alan, I can't. I'm married and I love my husband. Just as friends, or old time's sake. I don't think that's a good idea. Some things are better left in the past. That was 2 weeks ago. I should have felt relief at her response, but all I could think about was the affair she'd hidden for 27 years. I sat there for 2 hours, reading and rereading. I felt physical pain, like someone had reached into my chest and squeezed. 27 years. 3 kids, a life built on what I thought was solid ground. I heard her car pull into the driveway, closed the laptop, went upstairs and sat on the edge of our bed, the bed we'd shared for almost 3 decades. I could hear her moving around downstairs, putting away her things, humming some tune from the radio. She came upstairs, surprised to find me just sitting there. Frank? Everything okay? I looked up at her. This woman I'd built a life with, raised children with, the face I'd woken up to for 9,855 days. Who's Alan Westmore? Her face changed instantly. The color drained away. Her mouth opened, closed, opened again. How do you? You left Facebook open. I saw everything, Nancy. The lake house. 3 months after our wedding, when you supposedly went to visit your sister. She sat down heavily on the chair across from the bed. For a moment she looked like she might deny it, but then her shoulders slumped. Frank, that was so long ago. Why ruin everything now? Not I'm sorry, not I made a terrible mistake. But why ruin everything now, like I was the one doing the destroying? Did you sleep with him tonight? Is that where you really were? I asked, my voice steadier than I felt. Nancy's eyes widened in shock. What? No, book club, like I said, she insisted. Since then I never. I saw he asked you to dinner next month, I said. She looked away. I told him no. I said I couldn't. I saw that, but it doesn't change what happened back then, I said. Silence. The kind that fills a room, gets in your lungs. Why, Nancy? 3 months in. We were happy, weren't we? She still wouldn't look at me. It was stupid. I was young, scared by how permanent everything suddenly felt. He was from before, from college. It didn't mean anything. 3 days, Nancy. You spent 3 days with him. And then I came home. I chose you, Frank. I've chosen you every day for 27 years since then. Did you? Or did you just stay because it was easier? She started crying then. Big, heaving sobs. Told me she loved me, that it was one mistake in an otherwise faithful marriage, that she'd spent 27 years making up for it. I just felt empty. All those years, all those moments I thought were pure. Our first apartment, the birth of our kids, family vacations, Sunday mornings making pancakes. All of it now filtered through this new knowledge. While I was building a life with her, she was carrying this secret. And who knows what others? Were there others, Nancy? No. God, no. Just that one time. Please, Frank, we can work through this. We can go to counseling. But all I could think about was that message. When you said you were going to leave him then, she had considered leaving me. 3 months in. For him. I didn't yell, didn't throw things. I just got up, went to the closet, and pulled out my old military duffel. Started putting clothes in it. What are you doing? Her voice was small, frightened. I need some time to think. Frank, please, it was 27 years ago. We have a life together, kids, memories. Don't throw that away over one mistake. I zipped the bag closed and looked at her. Really looked at her. You already did that, Nancy. 27 years ago. I walked out. Drove around for hours. Ended up at a motel off the highway. Sat on the edge of the bed with my head in my hands until dawn broke. Called in sick to work the next day, and the day after. On the 3rd day, I found a short-term rental apartment. Signed a 6-month lease. Not sure what I'll do after that. The kids started calling almost immediately. Nancy had told them we were taking a break. That we'd had a disagreement. I couldn't bear to tell them the truth. Not yet. So I said the same. Just need some time apart, some space to think. My oldest, Mark, knew there was more to it. Dad, what's really going on? Mom's a mess, and you've never spent a night away from home in my entire life. I almost told him. But then I thought about how it would change his perception of his mother forever. I wasn't ready to do that. Not until I figured out what I was doing myself. 2 weeks passed. I went through the motions at work. Came back to my empty apartment. Stared at the walls. Nancy called and texted constantly. begging me to come home, to talk, to give her a chance to make it right. How do you make right a lie that's lasted 27 years? Yesterday, our youngest Emma called in tears. She'd come home from college for the weekend, expecting everything to be normal. Instead, she found her mother unable to function, her father gone. Dad, Mom's sitting us all down tonight to explain what's happening. Says she needs to tell us the truth. I'm scared. What's going on? I closed my eyes, pictured them all sitting in our living room. Nancy trying to explain. The kids confused, hurt. It should be me there too. Whatever happens, we should face it together as parents. But I couldn't do it. Couldn't sit there and watch her try to minimize what she'd done. Or worse, see my children look at me with pity. The poor fool who didn't know for 27 years. Your mother needs to tell you her truth, Emma. And then, if you want, you can call me, and I'll tell you mine. Last night, around 8 p.m., my phone started blowing up. First Emma, then Mark, then James, our middle child. Text messages, voicemails, their voices ranging from confused to angry to broken. Emma, Dad, is this true? Mom cheated right after you got married? Why didn't you ever say anything? Dad, call me. This is messed up. Mark, I need to talk to you. Not sure what to believe right now. Nancy had told them everything, well, her version of everything, that she'd made a terrible mistake as a young, scared newlywed, that she'd spent every day since then being the best wife and mother she could be, that she'd confessed to me recently, hoping for forgiveness, and I'd walked out. That wasn't true. She hadn't confessed. I'd discovered it, and it wasn't recent. It was 2 weeks ago, 27 years too late. I called Emma back first. She was crying. Dad, why didn't you come home? Why aren't you here? I needed space, sweetheart. To think, to process. But Mom's sorry. She made a mistake when she was young. People make mistakes. Even my daughter defending her. I felt a surge of anger, then pushed it down. This wasn't Emma's fault. Some mistakes change everything, Em. This isn't something I can just get over. But it was so long ago. It wasn't long ago for me. For me, it just happened 2 weeks ago. She was quiet then. Finally, she said, "Are you coming back?" I didn't know how to answer that. Part of me wanted to. To go back to my house, my life. To pretend I never saw those messages. But another part knew I could never unsee them. Never unfeel this betrayal. I don't know, Em. I really don't. Mark called next. He was angry, but not at me, at his mother. She's been living a lie our whole lives. How are we supposed to trust anything she says now? Mark, your mother loves you. That's real. Don't doubt that. But she didn't love you. Not enough to be faithful. Not enough to tell the truth. I rubbed my forehead, feeling a headache coming on. It's complicated, son. No, it's not. It's pretty simple. She cheated, lied about it for almost 3 decades, and now wants everyone to forgive and forget because it was so long ago. That's bullshit. I didn't disagree, but I also didn't want my kids hating their mother. Whatever happened between us, she was still their mom. James texted that he needed time to process before talking. He's always been the quiet one. Processes things internally. Nancy called around midnight. I almost didn't answer, but something made me pick up. You turned our kids against me. Her voice was thick with tears and what sounded like alcohol. I did no such thing. You did that yourself when you cheated 3 months into our marriage, then lied about it for 27 years. I was going to tell you about the messages, about Alan contacting me. I just hadn't found the right time. Were you going to tell me about the lake house too? About considering leaving me back then? Or just about the recent messages? Silence. That's what I thought. So that's it? 27 years just over? Because of one mistake? I sighed, suddenly feeling every one of my 58 years. Nancy, it's not just the affair, it's the lies. It's that I'll never know if you stayed because you loved me or because it was the easier choice. It's that everything I thought was real might not be. It was real, Frank. All of it. The kids, the life we built, that was all real. Maybe, but it was built on a foundation of sand, and now it's washing away. After I hung up, I sat in my empty apartment for a long time, thinking about the life I'd had, the life I thought I had, the life ahead of me now. This morning, I called my lawyer, started the divorce process. It feels surreal typing those words. Divorce. At 58, starting over. The kids are torn up. Nancy's a wreck, according to Emma. Part of me feels guilty for that, for blowing up our family over something that happened so long ago. But then I remember her words. Why ruin everything now? Like the truth doesn't matter, like my feelings don't matter. Like I'm supposed to just swallow this betrayal because it's inconvenient to address it now. I can't do that. I won't. So here I sit, in this half-empty apartment, wondering what comes next. I know I'll be okay eventually. The kids will be okay too. They're adults, they'll process this and move forward. As for Nancy, I don't know. Part of me will always love her. She's the mother of my children. We shared a life together. But I can't go back. Some bells can't be unrung. Some wounds don't heal. If there's a lesson here, maybe it's this. The truth always finds its way to the surface. Always. It might take 27 years, but it will emerge. And when it does, it changes everything. I don't know what the future holds. But for the first time in 27 years, at least it will be built on truth. During a fight, my wife said, "I regret not giving your brother a chance when I had it." I froze. She smirked and added, "What? You knew he was always hotter than you." I didn't say a word, just left a note on the mirror. "Since you regret the marriage, I regret the mortgage." 5 weeks later, she's sleeping in her car. I never thought I'd be posting one of these, but here I am at 3 a.m., bourbon in hand, trying to make sense of how 12 years of marriage imploded in under a minute. It started with something so small. I was working late again, third time that week. Construction project downtown running behind schedule, and as site manager, that's on me. I got home around 11 p.m., exhausted, covered in dust and sweat. All I wanted was a shower and sleep. Diana was waiting in the kitchen, arms crossed, that look on her face I'd come to know well over the years. The silent treatment first, then the comments about my hours, how I prioritize work over her, the usual stuff. Normally I'd apologize, promise to make it up to her, maybe plan something nice for the weekend. But that night, something in me just snapped. "What do you want from me, Diana? The overtime is paying for the kitchen renovation you insisted we needed. The one you said couldn't wait another year." That's when the real fight started. Voices raised, old arguments recycled, that familiar dance of a marriage running on fumes. Until she said it. "I regret not giving your brother a chance when I had it." Everything stopped. The room went quiet except for the hum of the refrigerator. I must have looked stunned because she smirked, actually smirked, and twisted the knife deeper. "What? You knew he was always hotter than you?" For context, my brother Mike and I were never close. 3 years younger, always the charmer, the athlete. Diana met us both at the same party 13 years ago. She chose me, or so I thought. I didn't say a word. Couldn't. Just turned around, went upstairs, locked myself in the bathroom, and sat on the edge of the tub for what felt like hours. Her words played on repeat in my head. Not just what she said, but how she said it. Like she'd been thinking it for years, like she'd been settling all this time. The next morning, I got up before her. Shower, dress, coffee, routine motions while my mind worked overtime. This wasn't a heat-of-the-moment comment. This was something she'd been carrying, maybe fantasizing about. My brother, the golden boy. I wrote the note with her lipstick right on the bathroom mirror where she couldn't miss it. "Since you regret the marriage, I regret the mortgage. Dave." Then I left for work, turned off my phone, and started making calls from my office line. First call, my lawyer Philip. Known him since college. Explained everything, including the state of our finances. Second call, my bank. Third, my brother. Surprisingly, that conversation was shorter than expected. "Mike, did you and Diana ever have a thing?" Silence on the line then. "Dave, what's this about?" "Just answer the question." He sighed. "She kissed me at your engagement party. Said she was having doubts. I shut it down and never told you because she swore it was just cold feet." Christ, Dave, that was 12 years ago. Fourth call, my boss, requesting emergency personal leave. Fifth call, locksmith. By 5 p.m., when Diana would normally be coming home from her admin job at the dental office, I was sitting in our living room, waiting. I'd already moved my personal belongings to a hotel and set up mail forwarding. I'd opened a new personal bank account where my future paychecks would be directed. I'd consulted with Philip about the legal process ahead. He'd cautioned me that despite the house being in my name, we'd need to follow proper legal channels for separation. Looking back, I'm not proud of how cold I was that day. But hearing your wife of 12 years say she should have picked your brother will do things to a man. Things that can't be undone. She pulled into the driveway at 5:22 p.m. I watched through the window as she parked. When she entered, I was sitting at the kitchen table, a suitcase packed beside me, my emotions locked down tight. The preliminary separation agreement Philip had helped me draft over the past 10 hours sat on the table. Not final divorce papers yet. Those would come later. But the first step. "Diana," I said as she set her purse down, "our marriage is over." She stared at me, mouth open. "What are you talking about? Because of one stupid fight?" "No, because you showed me who you really are, who you've always been." I handed her a printed screenshot of our accounts, showing I had transferred my latest paycheck to a new personal account, leaving our joint funds untouched. "I'm staying at the Marriott while we sort this out legally. I've contacted a lawyer." "Are you frickin' kidding me?" Her voice rose with each word. "Over a comment? People say things during fights, Dave." "Not things like that," I said, standing. "Not unless they've been thinking them for years." She switched from anger to panic, reaching for my arm. "Dave, please, I didn't mean it. I was just trying to hurt you. You know Mike means nothing to me." "That's exactly the problem, Diana. You wanted to hurt me. You enjoyed hurting me. And you used my brother to do it." I picked up my suitcase. "Philip will be contacting you about next steps. I suggest you get your own lawyer." She followed me to the door, alternating between threats and tears. I didn't respond to either, just walked to my truck and drove away. I stayed at the hotel for 2 weeks. Diana remained in the house. Legally, I couldn't just kick her out, as Philip explained, regardless of whose name was on the mortgage. During those 2 weeks, I only communicated through Philip. I had him file for divorce, citing irreconcilable differences. Our house had always been a point of pride for me. I'd bought it before we met, a fixer-upper in a decent neighborhood. During our marriage, I'd put thousands of hours and dollars into renovations. Diana had been enthusiastic about design choices early on, but over the years her interest shifted to just demanding upgrades without appreciating the work or cost involved. The most recent demand had been a kitchen renovation that would cost upwards of $30,000, work I'd been putting in overtime to afford. The texts started almost immediately after I left. "Diana, what the F, Dave? You can't just leave like this. This is our marriage." "Diana, answer your phone. You're being psychotic. Over a stupid fight?" I didn't mean what I said. Then, as reality set in, "Please come home. We can talk about this. Don't throw away 12 years. I miss you. Please, Dave. Can we just talk?" I got a new phone number and instructed Philip to handle all communications. Diana's family tried reaching out, mostly to berate me. I blocked their numbers one by one. My brother called offering support, which surprised me. We hadn't been close in years. After 2 weeks of legal back and forth, I finally agreed to meet Diana face to face. Neutral location, public place. Philip arranged it, advising me to stick to facts and avoid emotional confrontations. I got there early, saw her waiting at the coffee shop table, looking smaller somehow. Makeup couldn't hide the dark circles under her eyes. "You look like shit," she said as I sat down. "You don't have the high ground here, Diana." She started in on how I was overreacting, how married people say hurtful things during fights, how one comment shouldn't erase 12 years. I listened until she ran out of steam. "Are you finished?" I asked, opening my laptop. "Because I have some things to show you. First, the mortgage statements, every payment for 12 years from my account. Next, the home improvement receipts, $89,000 over the years, my credit cards. Then the property tax records. Finally, our prenup. The one her father had insisted on to protect her interests, because I was just a construction worker with uncertain prospects. The prenup that specifically listed the house as separate property, not marital property, as it was purchased before our marriage. The prenup that even had a clause about home improvements not creating marital equity if paid from separate funds. The prenup that her father's expensive lawyer had drafted, thinking it would protect her, never imagining it would instead protect me. "You have 2 options," I said, closing the laptop. "Sign the divorce papers as Philip has drawn them up, or we can let a judge decide. But understand this, according to our prenup, the house remains my separate property. The considerable equity we've built, Also mine, because I paid for every improvement with my separate funds, which your father's lawyer so helpfully specified in paragraph 12. I've lived there for 12 years, she said. I have rights. We can argue about those rights in court if you want. Philip says even with the prenup, a judge might award you something for the duration of marriage. But it'll cost both of us thousands in legal fees, and given the clear language in the agreement, you won't get much. I didn't raise my voice. Didn't need to. The couple at the next table definitely heard, from the way they suddenly became very interested in their muffins. She started crying then. Where am I supposed to go? My salary barely covers anything. You know that. You've been living in the house for 2 weeks while I stay at a hotel. Use that time to figure it out. For a moment, I almost felt sorry for her. Almost. Then I remembered the smirk. You have until the end of the month to decide. Either sign the papers as they are, or we go to court. I've also filed for possession of the house during divorce proceedings, given that it's my separate property. Philip says the judge will likely grant it. The papers offered her a small cash settlement, enough for first and last month's rent plus security deposit on a modest apartment, in exchange for an uncontested divorce. It was far less than she might have received after a court battle, but it was clean, fast, and didn't require expensive legal fees on either side. During the next 3 weeks, Diana's situation deteriorated. She finally moved out of the house after the judge granted my motion for exclusive possession, reluctantly going to her sister's cramped apartment. The sister has 3 kids and a small place. Her husband started complaining about the arrangement after just a few days. Diana's father, retired and living on a fixed income, couldn't help much financially. Her mother suggested she find a cheaper apartment. Diana couldn't afford even the cheapest studio apartment in our area on her dental office salary. Her credit was still terrible. No leasing office would touch her without a cosigner, and no one was volunteering. By week 4, tensions at her sister's place reached a breaking point, and she ended up sleeping in her car some nights. The car that was still legally mine, but that I'd allowed her to keep using temporarily. Still refusing to sign the papers, still believing she could wait me out. After consultation with Philip, I went through proper legal channels to reclaim the vehicle. Since it was solely in my name and Diana had no ownership claim to it, the court approved. I had it properly repossessed in week 5, with advance legal notice to Diana. That's when she finally broke. Showed up at Philip's office, mascara streaked down her face, wearing the same clothes as the day before, and signed everything. The settlement meant she walked away with enough cash for a small apartment deposit and first month's rent, plus her personal belongings. Nothing more. My brother later told me he'd heard through mutual friends that she had tried getting him to intervene on her behalf. He declined. That's when he finally opened up about other incidents over the years. Diana making suggestive comments at family gatherings when I wasn't in earshot, accidentally brushing against him at holidays, asking probing questions about his relationships. He said he never told me because he didn't want to create drama, and he honestly thought she was just being flirtatious by nature. It's been 6 months now. The divorce is final. In accordance with our prenup and the settlement she signed, I kept the house, both cars, and my retirement accounts. She got her personal belongings and the cash settlement I'd offered, less than I would have spent fighting a prolonged court battle, and significantly less than the 12 years of equity she might have felt entitled to without the prenup. I heard through a mutual friend in the dental industry that she's now living with a coworker, saving for a security deposit, telling anyone who will listen what a monster I am. This same friend occasionally updates me on Diana's situation, which is how I know her version of events differs substantially from reality. Her family won't speak to me, which is fine. My brother and I are talking more than we have in years. Our relationship had been strained by more than just Diana. Childhood competitiveness, different career paths, geographic distance, but removing her influence has helped us reconnect. Learning about her pattern of behavior with him made me realize she'd been subtly driving a wedge between us for years. Some nights I sit on my deck, beer in hand, and wonder if I went too far. If I was too ruthless, too cold. But then I remember her face when she said it. That frickin' smirk. She meant to hurt me, meant to humiliate me with the one comparison she knew would cut deepest. And she enjoyed it. So no, I don't think I went too far. Some words can't be unsaid. Some bells can't be unrung. Some marriages don't deserve a second chance. Thanks for the support, guys. To answer some common questions. Yes, the prenup was properly executed and reviewed by attorneys on both sides. Her dad made sure of that, ironically. It specifically protected premarital assets and even had language about home improvements paid from separate funds. No, there were no kids, thankfully. Diana always said she wanted to wait until we were more stable. Looking back, I wonder if she was just hedging her bets. For those saying I should have kicked her out immediately, that's not how the law works, even with a prenup and the house in my name. Married couples develop legal residency rights regardless of whose name is on the deed. That's why I had to file for exclusive possession during the divorce process. Some of you asked if there were warning signs before this. There were, but I ignored them. Comments about Mike's promotions while I just managed construction sites, comparing our vacations to his business trips, small things that seemed harmless at the time. And for the guy who asked if Mike is actually better looking than me, screw you. But also yes, former college baseball player, still has all his hair. But that's not the point. Update, it's been a year now. Diana reached out recently through a mutual friend wanting to clear the air. I declined. Some doors are better left closed. I'm dating casually, focusing on work and myself. The house is finally finished. Ironically completed the kitchen renovation she wanted so badly. Life isn't perfect, but it's mine. And that's enough. I've been living a double life for years. My GF accidentally texted me, meant to send it to a friend. He has no idea I have another boyfriend in the city. A minute later, she followed up, sorry, my phone got hacked. I didn't argue, just said I believed her. For Valentine's Day, I booked us a romantic dinner at her favorite restaurant, the same one her other boyfriend was at with his wife. When she saw them across the room, her face went pale. She begged we leave, but I had other plans. Some people say ignorance is bliss. I say knowledge is power, especially when you're the only one who knows that you know. Megan and I had been together for 3 years. We met at a friend's wedding, started dating a month later, and settled into what I thought was a solid relationship. Not perfect. She traveled frequently for her consulting job, often spending 3 to 4 days a week in the city, about 2 hours from our suburb. But we made it work, or so I believed. The text came on a random Tuesday afternoon. I was at my desk, reviewing some code, when my phone lit up with a message from Megan. I've been living a double life for years. He has no idea I have another boyfriend in the city. Sometimes I almost slip up and mention Robert, but Alex is too trusting to notice anything. I stared at the screen, blood rushing in my ears. Alex? That's me. Robert was someone I'd never heard of. Before I could even process this, another text arrived. Sorry, my phone got hacked. Ignore that weird message. Someone's playing a prank. Right. Because hackers regularly send specific texts about affairs using people's real names and accurate relationship details. My first instinct was confrontation. Demand answers, scream, throw things. But something stopped me. A cold, calculating voice in my head said, verify first, plan carefully, don't show your hand. So I typed back, no worries, figured it wasn't meant for me, hope they didn't access anything important. Her relief was almost palpable in her response. Thanks for understanding. These hackers are getting crazy. I'll change my passwords. That night when she called from her hotel in the city, I acted completely normal. Asked about her day, told her about mine, said I missed her. The entire time, I was opening a new document on my laptop, creating a timeline of her travel patterns over the past year. The next morning, I began my investigation. Not with jealous rage or desperate stalking, but with methodical precision. First step, verify Robert existed. I had never checked Megan's phone or social media before, trusted her completely. Now I logged into our shared laptop where her Facebook remained logged in. No Robert immediately visible in her friends, but in her message requests, multiple conversations with a Bobby Walker. Conversations that started innocently, then progressed to plans, hotel rooms, inside jokes. Can't wait for Tuesday. Alex leaves for his conference and we have 3 days. Missing you. Just 2 more days until Alex goes to his mom's for the weekend. Got us reservations at Aspen for Valentine's. We deserve something special. Aspen. An upscale restaurant downtown, her supposed favorite that we'd never actually visited together because it was too expensive for regular dates. I took screenshots, then checked her Instagram. More evidence. Photos I recognized from her solo work trips showed subtle hints of another presence. 2 wine glasses in a hotel room reflection, a men's watch visible on a nightstand. Next, I searched for Robert Walker in the city. There weren't many, and only one seemed to fit. A finance executive at a well-known firm. His social media was semi-private, but his LinkedIn and company profile provided enough information. He was married, though his wife's name wasn't visible in the limited public information available. Through some creative searching and cross-referencing mutual connections, I discovered his wife was Catherine, and they had been married for 8 years based on company newsletter mentions of their anniversary. The pieces aligned perfectly. When I traveled, she was with him. When his wife posted about business trips on her public professional profile, he was with Megan. They'd created an intricate dance around their primary relationships, using our trust as cover for their affair. I considered my options. Confronting Megan would just lead to denial, tears, promises to change. Contacting Catherine directly seemed messy. Then I remembered. Valentine's Day was coming up, and based on their messages, they had reservations at Aspen. I called the restaurant, pretending to be Robert, confirming his reservation. Just double-checking my Valentine's Day reservation. Yes, Mr. Walker, we have you at 8:15 p.m. on the 14th. Table for 2. Perfect. I immediately booked a table for 8 p.m. under my name. For the next 2 weeks, I maintained absolute normalcy. Bought Megan flowers, planned our special Valentine's dinner, listened to her increasingly elaborate lies about her work schedule that conveniently cleared Valentine's evening. Not once did I let slip that I knew everything. When February 14th arrived, Megan was noticeably tense. She'd prepared her story carefully. She would work late but rush back for our 8 p.m. reservation, meeting me directly at the restaurant. I hate working on Valentine's Day, she pouted that morning. But I'll make it up to you tonight. Don't worry, I assured her. Tonight will be unforgettable. I arrived at Aspen at 7:45 p.m., dressed sharply in a tailored suit. I requested a table with a clear view of the entrance and explained to the host that I was planning a surprise for my girlfriend. I didn't elaborate on the nature of the surprise, just slipped him an extra $50 to ensure we'd be seated at my preferred table. At 8:10, a couple was led to a table across the dining room. A man matching Robert's LinkedIn photo, and a woman I presumed was Catherine. They were seated at an angle where they wouldn't immediately notice our table, but would be clearly visible to anyone sitting where Megan would be. At 8:15, Megan arrived looking stunning in a red dress I'd never seen before. She kissed me, apologized for being caught in traffic, then followed the host to our table. I watched her face carefully as we approached our seats. 3, 2, 1. Her step faltered. The blood drained from her face as she spotted Robert and Catherine across the room. For a split second, pure panic flashed in her eyes before she regained composure. Something wrong? I asked innocently. No, just, thought I recognized someone from work. Let's request another table. The draft from that door is terrible. We can't move, I said calmly. I specifically requested this table for the view. Trust me. She sat down reluctantly, positioning herself to keep her back to Robert's table. Her hands trembled slightly as she opened the menu, eyes darting around like a cornered animal. You look nervous, I observed. Everything okay at work? Fine, just busy. You know how it is. I nodded sympathetically, then excused myself to the restroom. On my way, I made a detour to the Walker table, where Robert was mid-story with his wife. Excuse me, I said. Are you Robert Walker? He looked up, confused but professional. Yes, that's me. I'm Alex, Megan's boyfriend. I extended my hand, the color drained from his face. His wife looked between us, confusion dawning. I think we should talk, I said. All of us. Catherine's eyes narrowed. All of us? Yes, my girlfriend, Robert's girlfriend, is sitting right over there. I pointed to our table where Megan was anxiously checking her phone. Robert started stammering excuses, but Catherine was already standing, scanning the room. When she spotted Megan, her expression hardened. Wait, I recognize her from Robert's company event photos. She's introduced herself as his colleague. Catherine's voice was ice cold. The consultant who's always coincidentally in town when I'm traveling. I led them to our table. Megan was checking her phone when she heard approaching footsteps. She looked up, then froze completely. A statue of betrayal caught in the spotlight. "Robert?" she whispered. "Catherine? What's?" "Surprise," I said, taking my seat. "I thought we should all have dinner together, since we're practically family at this point." Our server appeared, professional but clearly sensing the tension. "Shall I bring 2 more place settings?" "That would be perfect," I replied. "And maybe some champagne? We're having a reunion of sorts." What followed was the most excruciating, captivating dinner of my life. Catherine, bless her, recovered quickly from the shock and transformed into an interrogator that would make federal agents envious. "So how long?" she demanded. Neither Megan nor Robert answered. "Fine, I'll ask Alex. How long have they been sleeping together?" "Based on my research, at least a year, possibly longer," I supplied. Though there are gaps in my intelligence. Megan found her voice. "Alex, please, we need to talk privately. This isn't what it looks like," I finished. "Because it looks like you've been lying to my face for years while building a relationship with a married man. It looks like you've been using my trust to facilitate your affair. It looks like you two have been playing us for fools." Robert finally spoke. "We can discuss this like adults. There's no need to make a scene." "There's no scene," I said. "Just 4 adults having dinner. Though I should mention that I've taken the liberty of ordering champagne. We are celebrating after all." "Celebrating what?" Catherine asked darkly. "The end of lies, the beginning of clarity." The champagne arrived. I raised my glass. "To truth, however ugly, however painful, it sets us free." Megan tried once more. "Alex, just let me explain. The text wasn't meant for me, right? Your phone was hacked? Which is it, Megan?" "Because both can't be true." She stared at her plate, defeated. Catherine turned to her husband. "And you? 8 years of marriage thrown away for what? Hotel room rendezvous and secret dinners?" Robert looked genuinely pained. "Cat, it just happened. I was going to end it." "When?" Catherine and I asked simultaneously. The dinner continued in this vein for almost an hour. Other diners pretended not to watch the drama unfolding. The staff maintained heroic professionalism. By dessert, everything was in the open. The timeline of their affair, the elaborate lies they'd constructed, the future they'd tentatively planned together. Finally, I signaled for the bill. "I've already taken care of our portion," I told the server, handing him my credit card. "They can handle theirs separately." Megan grabbed my arm as I stood up. "Please, we can work through this. I made a terrible mistake. A mistake is forgetting an anniversary or buying the wrong gift," I said quietly. "This was a deliberate choice you made every day for years." I turned to Catherine. "It was a pleasure meeting you, despite the circumstances." She nodded, a new resolve in her eyes. "Likewise. Thank you for your directness." I walked out alone, leaving the 3 of them to sort out their own endings. In the parking lot, I took my first full breath in weeks. It tasted like freedom. Megan came by our apartment the next day, tears streaming down her face. She alternated between begging forgiveness and accusing me of deliberately humiliating her. She tried calling repeatedly that night after I asked her to leave, sending dozens of texts oscillating between apologies and anger. I didn't block her number, wanted to preserve every message as evidence of her instability. But I stopped responding after telling her clearly, "I need you to move your things out by next weekend." She moved out the following Saturday, her mother helping her pack while shooting me daggers. I stayed silent, documenting everything in case she tried to claim I'd mistreated her during the breakup. I heard through our mutual friend Claire that Robert and Catherine were in counseling, attempting to salvage their marriage. Not my circus, not my monkeys. 6 months later, I received a letter from Megan in the mail. No return address, but her handwriting was unmistakable. I read it carefully, absorbing her explanations, justifications, and pleas for closure. Then I filed it away without responding. Some chapters don't need an epilogue. People say living well is the best revenge. I say the best revenge is whatever liberates you from lies, whether that's a quiet exit or a public reckoning. I chose the option that made the truth undeniable, that prevented further manipulation, that closed the door so firmly it could never be reopened. Some might call it petty or theatrical. I call it necessary clarity. Sometimes the only way out of deception is through the brightest spotlight you can find. Update 10 months later. Since many asked for an update, here's where things stand. Life has normalized in ways I wouldn't have thought possible the night of that Valentine's dinner. I've moved to a new place closer to my office, reconnected with friends who got sidelined during my relationship with Megan, even started dating again cautiously. The most unexpected development came 3 months ago when Catherine reached out through Claire, our mutual friend. We met for coffee, strictly platonic, as she and Robert were in the final stages of their divorce despite his efforts at reconciliation. She wanted to thank me for my approach to exposing the affair. Most people would have just told me privately or confronted them separately, she said. Your method left no room for them to manipulate the narrative. She's since become a casual friend. We meet occasionally to compare notes on recovery and moving forward. There's something uniquely bonding about surviving the same betrayal. As for the main players, Robert was apparently demoted at work after the scandal affected a client relationship. Catherine had more social connections in their industry than he'd calculated. Actions, consequences. Megan, according to Claire, moved to the city permanently. She's been telling people she ended things with me because I was controlling. When someone mentions her hacked text message, Claire made sure that screenshot circulated. That narrative crumbles quickly. The restaurant, Aspen, has become something of an inside joke among my friends. One of them made me a custom gift card to the place for my birthday with "drama not included" printed on it. For those asking if I regret the public confrontation, not for a second. Private confrontations allow liars to continue lying. Public ones force reality to the surface. Could I have handled it differently? Sure. Would it have been as effective? Doubtful. Some readers suggested I should have just walked away quietly, that the elaborate setup was unnecessary. To them I say, 3 years of my life were stolen through systematic deception. My exit needed to be definitive enough to prevent any possibility of her manipulating me further. The most valuable lesson from all this? Trust your instincts, verify your suspicions, and when it's time to act, do so with absolute clarity of purpose. Emotional reactions give manipulators leverage. Strategic responses leave them powerless. I've been asked if I have trust issues now. Of course I do. But I'm working on distinguishing between healthy skepticism and paralyzing suspicion. The former protects you, the latter prevents you from living. For those in similar situations wondering, what would this guy do? I don't recommend my exact approach unless you're absolutely certain of the facts and emotionally prepared for the fallout. But I do recommend refusing to let someone who betrayed you control the narrative of how things end. Lastly, to the person who asked if I'd have handled things differently if Megan had been truly remorseful immediately after the accidental text, probably not. Real remorse would have meant confessing everything right then, not inventing a hacking story and continuing the deception. By the time I discovered the truth, honesty was no longer on the table as an option. Life continues, better than before, with clearer boundaries and sharper instincts. The dinner that ended everything also began something new, a life without compromise on the things that matter most: honesty, respect, and the courage to face truth even when it arrives on the most romantic night of the year. It was just once. You're overreacting, she said when I caught her with someone else. He actually knows what he's doing in bed. I didn't argue, just walked out. 2 weeks later, she showed up at my job crying after finding out he gave her an STD. Some lessons in life cost more than others. For my ex Vanessa, that lesson came in the form of a prescription and a whole lot of regret. I'm not the type to air dirty laundry, but this story needs telling, not because I'm proud of how it ended, but because sometimes karma does the work for you. I'm Carter, 29, head chef at Ember, one of the most popular restaurants in our mid-sized city. I worked my way up from line cook over 7 years. No culinary school, just pure grit and an obsessive attention to detail. The hours are long, the work is demanding, but I love what I do. The kitchen is my domain, the one place where I have complete control and respect. I met Vanessa at the restaurant. She wasn't a regular customer. She was the event coordinator for a local tech company booking their holiday party. From the first planning meeting, there was a spark. She was gorgeous, tall, dark hair, killer smile. But what got me was her confidence and quick wit. By the end of that first meeting, we'd already shifted from professional to flirtatious. After the successful event, I asked her out. Our first date turned into a weekend-long adventure, and within 2 months, she had a drawer at my place. By 6 months, she was practically living there, though she kept her apartment for work purposes, since it was closer to her office. Things were good. Great, even. She understood my crazy schedule, and I respected her ambition. We traveled when we could, cooked together on my rare days off, and built what I thought was a solid foundation. Then came my birthday. I'd arranged to take a rare Saturday night off so we could celebrate. The reservation was set for 8 p.m. at Luciano's, the upscale Italian place across town that I'd been wanting to try. I left work early at 5, excited to have an actual evening out like a normal couple. When I got home, Vanessa wasn't there. No big deal, she was probably running late at work or getting ready at her place. I texted her, "Hey, I'm home. Are we meeting at Luciano's or are you coming here first?" No response. I showered and dressed, checking my phone every few minutes. By 7:15, still nothing. I called straight to voicemail. I started to worry something had happened, so I used the location sharing app we'd set up for safety when traveling. The map showed her at her apartment. Relief washed over me. She was fine, probably just getting ready and lost track of time. I decided to head over and surprise her, maybe even help her finish getting ready so we wouldn't miss our reservation. I still had a key to her place. We'd exchanged keys months ago. When I arrived, I heard music playing inside. I unlocked the door, calling out, "Vanessa? You ready? We need to." I stopped mid-sentence. There on her couch was Vanessa, partially dressed, straddling a guy I'd never seen before. They both froze, heads whipping toward me in perfect synchronization. Time seemed to stand still for a moment, then Vanessa scrambled off him, adjusting her clothes. "Carter, what are you doing here?" Her voice was high-pitched, panicky. "It's my birthday. We have reservations at Luciano's, remember?" My voice sounded strangely calm to my own ears. The guy, bearded, tattooed, looking like a wannabe rock star, grabbed his shirt from the floor. "I'm gonna go." "No," I said, still eerily calm. "I'm going. You two carry on." Vanessa rushed toward me. "Carter, wait. This isn't what it looks like." I finished for her. "Pretty sure it's exactly what it looks like." "It was just once," she said, her eyes pleading. "You're overreacting." I raised an eyebrow, waiting for her to realize what she'd just admitted. Instead, she dug herself deeper. "It doesn't mean anything. We've been having problems and you're always working in problems?" This was news to me. "What problems?" She hesitated, then looked back at the guy who was awkwardly putting on his shoes. "You wouldn't understand. It's just different with him. He actually knows what he's doing in bed." The guy had the decency to look embarrassed. I didn't raise my voice, didn't throw things, didn't make a scene. I simply nodded, turned around, and walked out, closing the door quietly behind me. My phone started buzzing with texts before I even reached my car. "Carter, please come back. We need to talk about this. It was a mistake. Don't throw away what we have." I turned off my phone, drove to a bar I'd never been to before, and ordered a whiskey. The bartender took one look at my face and left the bottle. By midnight, I'd made some decisions. I wasn't going to beg. Wasn't going to fight for someone who didn't value what we had. Wasn't going to be plan B while she explored her options. When I got home, I packed up all of Vanessa's things from my apartment. It didn't take long. Mostly clothes, toiletries, a few books. I put everything in 3 neat boxes, including the key to my place. Since her luxury apartment building had a concierge service, one of the perks she'd mentioned when explaining why she kept the place, I dropped the boxes off with the concierge the next morning on my way to work, asking him to notify Miss Riley that a delivery had arrived. He assured me he'd handle it professionally. Then I blocked her number, removed her from my social media, and threw myself into my job. New menu items, staff training, inventory optimization, anything to keep my mind occupied. For a week, I barely thought about her. My staff noticed the change in my mood, but were smart enough not to ask. I stayed later than usual, came in earlier, and took fewer breaks. The restaurant's owner noticed and complimented my dedication, unaware it was just emotional avoidance. The following weekend, I threw myself into developing new menu items for our seasonal change, spending all of Saturday experimenting in the kitchen. On Monday morning, our general manager mentioned that Vanessa had called the restaurant twice, asking for me. I told him I wasn't interested in speaking with her. 10 days after the incident, Vanessa showed up at Ember during pre-dinner prep. I was in the kitchen when one of the servers came back, looking uncomfortable. "Chef, there's someone asking for you out front. We open in an hour, tell them to come back." "It's Vanessa. She seems pretty upset." I put down my knife and wiped my hands. "Take over the sauce reduction," I told my sous chef, then headed to the front of the restaurant. Vanessa was sitting at the bar, fidgeting with a napkin. When she saw me, she stood up, and I could tell she'd been crying. Her eyes were red, her makeup smudged. "You need to get tested?" she blurted out before I could say anything. I immediately glanced around to see if anyone could hear us. Though the restaurant was empty of customers, several staff members were within earshot. I gestured toward the door. "Let's step outside," I said firmly, not wanting this conversation to happen where my team could overhear. Once we were outside on the relatively quiet sidewalk, I turned to her. "What's going on?" "That guy, Jordan, he gave me something." She lowered her voice. "Chlamydia. I just found out yesterday." I kept my expression neutral, processing this information. "And you came here to tell me this, during my work hours?" "I tried calling. You blocked my number. I went to your apartment, but you weren't home. I didn't know how else to reach you." She was on the verge of tears again. "I'm so sorry, Carter. I made a horrible mistake." "Just once, right?" I couldn't help the sarcasm. She looked down. "I deserved that." "Did you get treatment?" I asked, my voice neutral. She nodded. "Yesterday. The doctor said I need to inform any recent partners." "Partner," I corrected. "Singular. Unlike some people, I don't sleep around." She winced. "Carter, please. Can we talk about this? About us? I miss you. What I did was stupid and selfish, and I regret it more than you can imagine." "I appreciate you letting me know about the health situation," I said formally. "I'll get tested. Is there anything else?" "That's it? After 8 months together, that's all you have to say?" I looked at her, really looked at her. The woman I thought I knew. The woman I'd planned a future with. The woman who'd cheated on me, insulted me, and now brought a medical crisis to my workplace. "What do you want me to say, Vanessa? That I forgive you? That we can start over? That I'm not bothered by the fact that you cheated on me, told me I wasn't good enough in bed, and now you've potentially given me an STD?" "I didn't mean what I said," she cried. I was embarrassed and trying to justify my behavior. "You're amazing in bed." Jordan was terrible, actually. It was awkward and over in minutes. I don't know why I said that. A few staff members were pretending not to listen from the dining area. I gestured toward the front door, and we stepped outside. "Look," I said once we were on the sidewalk, "I've got a restaurant to run. I appreciate the health warning, but this isn't the place for this conversation." "So you'll talk to me somewhere else?" Hope flashed in her eyes. "No, there's nothing to talk about. We're done." "Carter, please. Everyone makes mistakes." "True. And everyone has to live with the consequences of those mistakes." "So that's it? One mistake and it's over?" I sighed. "It wasn't just the cheating, Vanessa. It was the casual cruelty afterward. It was the fact that you only came clean about it after getting caught. It was the disrespect of showing up at my job with this. Some things can't be fixed with an apology. What if I told you I think I'm in love with you?" Her voice was small, desperate. "I'd say your timing is terrible." I turned to go back inside, but she grabbed my arm. "Can I at least know if you're okay? If you're infected too?" "I'll make an appointment with my doctor, but since you were my only partner, if I have it, I know exactly where it came from." Her face crumpled. "I really am sorry, Carter. I believe you, but sometimes sorry isn't enough." I went back inside, instructed the host not to let her in if she returned, and immersed myself in dinner service. Following my doctor's advice, I waited the recommended time for accurate testing, about a week after potential exposure, before getting tested. My doctor explained that testing too early could result in a false negative, since the infection might not be detectable yet. The results came back negative about a week later. I was clean, physically at least. Emotionally was another story. Vanessa continued to try to contact me for a few weeks. Emails, messages through mutual friends, even a handwritten letter delivered to my apartment. Each attempt became more desperate, more dramatic. She'd made a terrible mistake. She'd never felt this way about anyone. She'd do anything for another chance. I didn't respond to any of it. A month after our breakup, I heard she'd been fired from her job. Apparently, she'd been dating her boss, the married CEO of the tech company, on and off for over a year. The same CEO who attended the holiday party where we met. The STD situation had blown up their affair, leading to an HR investigation. According to my source, a bartender friend who served several of the company's employees, the company had a strict policy requiring disclosure of workplace relationships to HR. When the CEO's wife found out about both the affair and the STD, she contacted the board of directors directly. After a formal review process, both Vanessa and the CEO were terminated. Him for abuse of power and failure to disclose the relationship, her for violating company policy. When I heard that news, something clicked into place. The problems she'd mentioned. The apartment she kept for work purposes, despite it being significantly more expensive than necessary. The late nights and occasional unexplained absences when she claimed to be working on special projects with the executive team. She hadn't just cheated on me with Jordan, she'd been cheating the entire time we were together. I dodged more than just an STD. I'd escaped a relationship built entirely on lies. 6 months later, I was promoted to executive chef when my boss decided to open a second location. The increased responsibility and creative freedom helped me rebuild my confidence and move forward. I dated casually, but kept things light, not quite ready to trust someone fully again. Then I met Elise, a food photographer assigned to shoot our new menu for a magazine feature. Smart, talented, straightforward, everything Vanessa wasn't. We've been taking things slow, but for the first time since the breakup, I'm genuinely excited about the possibilities. Last week, I ran into Jordan at a local brewery. He recognized me immediately and looked like he wanted to disappear. I was surprised he knew who I was, but then remembered that our mutual friend group had several overlapping connections on social media. Vanessa had probably shown him my photos, or he'd seen me in her Instagram posts from before everything went down. "Hey, man," he said awkwardly. I didn't know she had a boyfriend. When I found out, I never saw her again. For what it's worth, I'm sorry." I nodded, appreciating the unexpected apology. "Did you know about her boss too?" His eyes widened. "Her what?" I just shook my head. "Forget it. We both dodged a bullet." He raised his glass to that, and I returned to my friends without another word. Sometimes the best revenge isn't anything you do yourself. It's stepping back and letting someone's own choices catch up with them. Vanessa lost her job, her reputation, her health temporarily, and the CEO she was probably planning to upgrade to all along. Me? I kept my dignity, my health, my career, and eventually my ability to trust again. I'd say I came out ahead in the end, and that's a dish best served not cold, but with perfect timing. At our son's 5th birthday party, her sister got drunk and said, "I still can't believe he still thinks the baby is his. You lied so well." My wife froze. I just smiled, sang happy birthday, and left right after cake. 3 days later, she was standing outside my job, crying in the parking lot. Before we start, I just want to say thank you for being here. It means the world. But take a look at this. Only 8% of people watching are subscribed. If you enjoy these stories and want to support more of them, just one click makes a huge difference. Not sure if this belongs here, but need to get this off my chest. Apologies for any formatting issues. Typing this on my phone during lunch break. For background, I'm a 34-year-old electrician married to Sarah, 32, for 8 years. We have a son, Ethan, who just turned 5 last week. At least I thought he was my son. Sarah and I met in college. She was studying psychology. I was doing trade school classes while working part-time. We got married young, struggled a bit financially at first, but eventually settled into a good rhythm. I started my own electrical contracting business 4 years ago, and things have been solid since then. Ethan was born a year after we got married. I was over the moon about becoming a dad, even cut back on jobs for a while to be home more during those first few months. I'm the guy who volunteers at preschool, coaches t-ball, and knows the name of every damn dinosaur because that's what Ethan's into. Being his dad has been the greatest joy of my life. Sarah's sister Jenna has always been the family wildcard. She's 2 years younger than Sarah, never settled into a career, moves from relationship to relationship. She's fun but chaotic, the type who makes family gatherings unpredictable. Sarah always made excuses for her behavior, saying Jenna had a rough time growing up and deserved grace. I tolerated her for Sarah's sake. Last Saturday was Ethan's birthday party. Nothing fancy, just a backyard dinosaur-themed thing with about 15 kids from his preschool and their parents, plus family. Sarah spent weeks planning it. Dinosaur cake, fossil dig sandbox, the works. Ethan was having the time of his life. I was grilling hot dogs when Jenna arrived, already half in the bag. Sarah pulled her aside. They had some heated whispers, but then Jenna seemed to pull it together. She helped with the games, charmed the other parents, and for a while, everything was fine. Around 4 p.m., we gathered everyone for cake. I had Ethan on my shoulders as Sarah brought out this elaborate T-Rex cake she'd special ordered. Everyone was singing happy birthday. Ethan was beaming. It was perfect. As we finished the song, I set him down so he could blow out his candles. That's when it happened. Jenna, who'd been steadily drinking the wine she brought in a water bottle, sidled up to Sarah and said, loud enough for me and at least 3 other parents to hear, "I still can't believe he still thinks the baby is his. You lied so well." The world stopped. Sarah froze, cake knife suspended midair. I felt like I'd been punched in the stomach, but somehow kept my face neutral for Ethan's sake. He was looking up at me, waiting for me to tell him to blow out his candles, so that's what I did. "Make a wish, buddy," I said, smiling down at my son, or the boy I thought was my son. He took a big breath and blew with all his might, knocking out all 5 candles. Everyone clapped. The moment passed and I started cutting cake while Sarah pulled Jenna inside. I functioned on autopilot for the next hour, handed out cake, thanked parents as they left, helped Ethan open presents, smiled for photos. Not once did I look at Sarah, and kept trying to catch my eye from across the yard. After the last guest left, Sarah approached me, eyes red. "We need to talk about what Jenna said." "Not now," I cut her off, nodding toward Ethan, who was still riding the birthday excitement high, showing his grandmother his new dinosaur toys. "But it's not," I said, "not now, not in front of him." My voice was quiet but firm. I spent the rest of the evening focused solely on Ethan. Bath time, story time, tucking him in. I told him I loved him about 5 times, because no matter what DNA say, he's still my son in every way that counts. I've been there for every skinned knee and nightmare and first day of school. When I came downstairs, Sarah was waiting at the kitchen table. Jenna was gone. "It's not what you think," Sarah started. "Then what is it?" Because it sounded pretty clear to me. She launched into some explanation about how Jenna was drunk and confused, mixing up some storyline from a TV show they'd watched. How could I believe something so ridiculous? We were trying for a baby for months before she got pregnant. Remember all those negative tests? The disappointment? I just stared at her. The woman I'd shared a life with for 8 years, suddenly a stranger. "I'm going to stay at Dave's tonight," I said, referring to my business partner who has a spare room. "I can't do this right now." "You're leaving? Over something?" Jenna said while drunk. Without even hearing me out? Sarah's voice cracked. "I did hear you out. I don't believe you." I packed an overnight bag and left. Sarah called and texted constantly that night, but I didn't respond. I needed space to think. The next morning, I called a lab and scheduled a paternity test. Then I called my attorney, a guy who's helped with business contracts over the years. Got some preliminary advice on my options. I didn't tell Sarah about either of those calls. Instead, I texted that I'd be sleeping at Dave's for a few more days while I processed things and would pick up more clothes when she was at work. My priority was keeping things normal for Ethan, so I still took him to preschool Monday morning, acting like everything was fine. Over those next 2 days, I thought a lot about what I wanted. If Ethan wasn't biologically mine, did that change anything about how I felt about him? No. Did it change how I felt about Sarah? Absolutely. On day 3, Sarah escalated. She showed up at my office around 5 p.m., just as I was finishing with a client. "Julie," my office manager buzzed me. "Your wife is here. She seems upset." I finished the paperwork, then went to the parking lot. Sarah was standing beside her car, eyes puffy, clutching her purse like a lifeline. "You can't just disappear like this," she said when she saw me. "You haven't answered my calls. You sneaked into the house yesterday when I was out. Ethan keeps asking where you are." "What did you tell him? That you're helping a friend who's sick?" Her voice softened. "Please come home. We can work this out." "Is he mine, Sarah?" She looked away. "How can you even ask that?" "Of course he's yours." Jenna was drunk and being malicious. "She's always been jealous of me." I studied her face, the face I thought I knew better than my own. Why would that specific lie be the one she'd tell? Of all the hurtful things she could make up, Sarah had no answer for that. "The paternity test is tomorrow," I said quietly. "I'd like you to bring Ethan." Her face went white. "You scheduled a paternity test without talking to me? That's insane, and it's going to traumatize him. It's a cheek swab, and he doesn't need to know what it's for. Tell him it's a dental checkup for all I care." "I won't do it. I refuse." I shrugged. "Then I'll get a court order." I wasn't sure if I actually could, but she didn't know that. She stared at me for a long moment, then her shoulders slumped. "Fine. But when it shows you're his father, I want an apology. And I want you to cut Jenna out of our lives for good." "Deal." I didn't sleep that night, just stared at the ceiling in Dave's spare room, cycling through memories. Ethan's birth, his first steps, teaching him to ride a bike. How could any of that be based on a lie? The next day we met at the lab. Sarah was cold, Ethan was confused, but cooperative when the technician swabbed his cheek, then mine. They said results would take 2 to 3 business days. I went back to Dave's, Sarah took Ethan home, and we waited. What Sarah didn't know was that I had already done a home paternity test the day after the party. I'd ordered one online months ago. After finding some suspicious text messages on Sarah's phone, she'd explained them away, and I'd felt guilty for doubting her, so the test kit sat unopened in my truck's glove compartment, just in case. The morning after the party, I took a swab from one of Ethan's toothbrushes before dropping him at preschool. The results had come back yesterday. 0% probability of paternity. I wasn't Ethan's biological father. The official test was just to make it impossible for Sarah to deny it. But I already knew the truth, and had spent the past day getting my ducks in a row. I'd spoken with my attorney again, clarifying my rights and options. I'd transfer half our savings to a separate account, not to hide it, but to protect it until things were settled legally. I documented everything from Jenna's statement to Sarah's denial. The day after the lab test, Sarah called. "We need to talk. Not about the test, about something else." Her voice was strange, hollow. "I'm listening." "Not on the phone. Can you meet me at Riverside Park, the bench by the duck pond?" It seemed like an odd request, but I agreed. When I got there, Sarah was already waiting, staring out at the water. She looked like she hadn't slept in days. "I have something to show you," she said, not making eye contact. She handed me her phone, opened to a text conversation with Jenna. I scrolled through, my stomach turning with each message. It was from the night of the party. "Sarah, how could you say that in front of everyone? What's wrong with you?" Jenna, stop being so dramatic. No one heard." Sarah, "At least 4 people heard you, including Rob. This isn't some joke." Jenna, "Please, he's been raising another man's kid for 5 years. He deserves to know. I'm sick of being your accomplice." Sarah, "You promised you'd never tell. We had an agreement." Jenna, "Agreements change when you sleep with my boyfriend. Yeah, I know about you and Chris last year, so consider us even now." There was more, but I'd seen enough. I handed the phone back to Sarah, feeling strangely calm. "Who's the father?" "A guy from my master's program. It was a one-night thing. We'd been fighting, you and me, about money, about whether we were ready for kids. I was drunk and stupid." She finally looked up at me. "I never meant for this to happen." "For what to happen? Getting pregnant with another man's child, or passing that child off as mine for 5 years? She had no answer. I stood up. "The lab called. Official results are back. Not that we need them now." "What are you going to do?" she whispered. "I've already done it. Check your email." She pulled out her phone with shaking hands. I'd had my attorney draft a separation agreement that laid everything out. Joint custody of Ethan. I'd included a clause acknowledging I wasn't the biological father, but was the legal father and intended to remain in his life. Division of assets, child support arrangements. "You still want custody?" she asked, voice breaking. Even knowing? He's my son, I said simply. DNA doesn't change that. And us? There is no us anymore. You made sure of that 5 years ago. And again, every day since that you chose to maintain the lie. She started crying then, those body-shaking sobs that normally would have moved me to comfort her. I felt nothing. One more thing, I said. I want you to tell him when he's old enough. Not now, but someday. And I want to be there when you do it. He deserves the truth. She nodded, unable to speak through her tears. I walked away, leaving her on that bench, got in my truck, drove to the office, and buried myself in work for the rest of the day. It's been 2 weeks now. I've moved into a small apartment near Ethan's preschool. We have temporary custody sorted, 50-50, week on, week off. Sarah and I only communicate about Ethan. The divorce paperwork is in process. Jenna reached out once, full of apologies and excuses. I blocked her number. Ethan's adjusting as well as can be expected. He doesn't understand why Dad and Mom don't live together anymore, but we've kept the transition smooth. The night he's with me, we have guy time, dinosaur documentaries, building forts, making pizza. I treasure every moment more than ever. Sometimes I look at him and search for signs of this other man, this stranger whose DNA he carries. But all I see is my son, the boy who runs to me yelling, "Daddy." The kid who knows I'll always check under the bed for monsters. The little person I've loved since before he was born. Sarah wants to try counseling. Thinks we can rebuild. Doesn't understand that some things can't be fixed. Some betrayals cut too deep. It's strange. People ask if I'm angry. I was at first. But now, I'm just grateful. Grateful that I know the truth. Grateful that despite everything, I still have my son. Sometimes the most devastating revenge isn't something you do. It's simply refusing to play along with someone else's lies anymore. It's walking away with your dignity intact and your priorities straight. Ethan comes first. Always has, always will. Biology be damned. Edit. Wow, didn't expect this to blow up like it did. Thanks for the support, and also for the tough questions. Trying to address the main ones. To the people saying I'm raising another man's child like a chump. Seriously? Being a dad isn't about DNA. It's about showing up. It's about dinosaur nightlights and teaching him to throw a ball and kissing scraped knees. I've been there for every moment of this kid's life. Some random guy who donated genetic material doesn't make him less my son. About why I didn't confront Sarah immediately at the party. There were 15 kids there, including my son who was excited about his birthday. I'm not about to create a scene that ruins his day. Adults handle their business like adults. For those asking if I've tried to find the biological father, no, and I don't plan to. Sarah says he doesn't know about Ethan, and I'm not interested in complicating my son's life further right now. When Ethan's older, that might be his choice to make. Several people suggested I'm being too nice about custody. Look, I could fight for full custody, drag Sarah through the mud, but what does that accomplish, except hurting Ethan? He loves his mom. She's a liar. But she's not abusive or neglectful. Punishing her by taking away her child would only punish him too. And yes, I've confirmed with my lawyer that I'm legally his father, regardless of biology. I'm on the birth certificate. I've been acting as his father for 5 years with no evidence or claim to the contrary. And in our state, that's enough to establish paternity by presumption. To the person who DM'd me saying I should teach her a lesson, by taking everything in the divorce, that's not who I am, and it's not the example I want to set for my son. The separation agreement is fair. I'm not trying to financially destroy her. I just want out of the marriage with my relationship with Ethan intact. Last thing, some of you noticed I said I'd found suspicious texts months ago. They were messages to someone saved as Chris, with stuff like, "Miss you," and "Last night was fun." When I asked her about it, she said it was her coworker Christina, and they'd been out for drinks with work friends. I chose to believe her because I wanted to. Classic mistake. Trust your gut, folks. Thanks again for letting me vent. Focusing on moving forward now. I can't believe I have to sleep with him just to keep getting his money, my wife told her friend, not realizing our security camera caught everything. I didn't confront her. Just sent the footage to our family lawyer. She found out I knew when she was served divorce papers at her parents' anniversary party. She's been calling me non-stop ever since. Strange how 15 years of marriage can evaporate in 20 seconds of unguarded conversation. One moment you're a happily married man with the life you've worked for, and the next, you're a wallet with a pulse. Names changes for obvious reasons. I'm James, 47, CEO of a commercial construction company I built from scratch over 20 years. My soon-to-be ex-wife Rose is 45, hasn't worked since before we married. We have 2 kids, Megan, 19, away at college, and Ryan, 17, finishing high school. When I met Rose, she was a paralegal with ambition. After we married, she decided she preferred being a full-time mother, and later a household manager. I supported her choice. We could afford it, and I wanted her to be happy. 8 weeks ago, I was in my home office reviewing footage from our security cameras, not something I normally do, but we'd had a package stolen from our front porch, and I wanted to see if the cameras caught anything useful. I was checking the interior camera in the kitchen when I saw Rose and her friend Melissa sitting at the island, drinking wine. "This vacation will be amazing," Rose was saying. "James thinks it's next month, but I've pushed it to September. Told him it's because of the weather, but really I just need more time at the spa first." Melissa laughed. "Getting all beautified for the beach? He'll appreciate that." Rose's response froze me in place. "Please, I can't believe I have to sleep with him just to keep getting his money. It's exhausting maintaining this charade. You know we haven't had sex in 3 months before last week?" Then he starts talking about reconnecting, and I had to give in, nearly gagged the whole time. Melissa's eyes widened. "Rose, that's cold. It's business. I've invested 15 years in this arrangement. 3 more until Ryan finishes college, then I can cash out with half of everything. The prenup expires on our 20th anniversary." "And then what? Divorce?" Rose sipped her wine. "Exactly. I've already got multiple accounts he doesn't know about. Been siphoning money for years. Once the prenup expires, I'll take half his company, half the properties, and the house. He can keep his boat and his pride." Melissa looked uncomfortable. "Does he suspect anything?" "James? God, no. He's so focused on his precious business and being the provider. It's pathetic how easy he is to manipulate. Last week I mentioned admiring Jennifer's diamond bracelet, and guess what appeared on my nightstand the next day? Men are so simple." They laughed, and then the conversation shifted to their upcoming spa day. I sat there, staring at my monitor, long after they'd left the kitchen. 15 years of marriage, reduced to an arrangement. The mother of my children, plotting to cash out like our life together was some long-term investment strategy. I didn't yell, didn't throw things, didn't storm downstairs to confront her. Instead, I backed up the video file to a secure cloud server, then closed my laptop and went to take a shower. Needed to think. Rose and I had a prenuptial agreement that would indeed expire on our 20th anniversary, something her lawyer had insisted on during negotiations. I'd agreed because at the time, I couldn't imagine not being with Rose forever. Naive. The prenup had specific clauses regarding financial transparency and fidelity. The language clearly stated that any deliberate concealment of assets or actions taken in bad faith against the financial interests of the other party would constitute a breach. It didn't require physical infidelity. Financial betrayal was explicitly covered. The video wasn't just damning morally, it was legally actionable proof of Rose violating our prenup. That night, I kissed Rose goodbye as she left for book club, which I now suspected was something else entirely, and started making calls. First to Sam Wright, my personal attorney who had handled the prenup. Explained the situation, sent him the video, and asked for options. Second, to Michael Chen, my company's CFO and most trusted employee. Asked for a complete audit of all personal and business accounts Rose might have access to, directly or indirectly. Third, to Garrett Bell, a private investigator recommended by Sam, his specialty? Asset searches and surveillance. For the next 6 weeks, I lived 2 lives. In one, I was the same James, attentive husband, devoted father, busy CEO. I brought Rose flowers, took her shopping, made love to her, fighting revulsion the entire time, knowing she was gagging. I deliberately mentioned business successes, left financial statements visible, created the illusion of increasing wealth. In my other life, I was methodically untangling Rose from my future. What I discovered was worse than I'd imagined. The multiple accounts Rose mentioned? 3 separate accounts in 2 different banks, containing just over $440,000, all transferred in small amounts from our joint account over the years. Money that had been taxed once as business income, that I'd then given to Rose for household expenses. The investigator found these by tracking transfers from our joint accounts and cross-referencing with her tax records, which revealed unreported interest income. Her book club was indeed a cover, not for an affair, but for consultations with a divorce attorney, Karen Elliott, known for aggressive tactics against high-net-worth husbands. Rose had been meeting with her monthly for over a year. Most disturbing, we discovered Rose had installed spyware on my home office computer and placed a recording device in my desk drawer, capturing my private conversations with business partners about company valuation and upcoming deals. In our state, recording conversations without consent of all parties is illegal. We found the software during a security audit of my systems and the physical device during a sweep of my office, conducted discreetly while Rose was at her spa day. Thanks to my company's success, we lived very well, but not extravagantly. Our house was worth about $1.8 million, we had investment properties producing income, and my company was valued at roughly $16 million. Rose was plotting to take about $9 million in assets, plus ongoing support. But Rose had made critical mistakes. First, she'd discussed her plans where she could be recorded. Second, she'd hidden assets, a clear violation of financial disclosure requirements in our state and explicitly prohibited in our prenup. Third, she'd illegally recorded private business conversations without consent, a criminal violation in our jurisdiction. Working with Sam, I developed a strategy. We would wait, document everything, and strike when she least expected it. I made sure Rose believed her plan was working perfectly. Even suggested we should celebrate our 15th anniversary in style, perhaps at her parents' upcoming 40th anniversary celebration. She loved the idea. The party was set for their country club, a lavish affair with 120 guests. I'd already confirmed with the club management that legal papers could be served there. As a private venue with public access, there were no legal restrictions preventing service. I'd also arranged proper credentials for my attorney and the process server through Rose's father, under the pretense of ensuring proper security for all guests. Rose spent thousands on a new dress, professional makeup and hair. She was glowing as we arrived, playing the perfect daughter and wife. My gift to her parents was extravagant, a fully paid Mediterranean cruise. They were overwhelmed with gratitude, hugging me, calling me the son they never had. Rose beamed, basking in the reflected glory of her successful husband's generosity. At precisely 8:30 p.m., as dinner was being served, Karen Nelson, not Rose's lawyer but mine, entered the private dining room accompanied by a process server. They paused at the entrance, scanning the room. I excused myself to use the restroom, but instead met them at the door. "She's in the blue dress, center table," I said quietly, then stepped aside. I watched from near the bar as they approached Rose. Watched her face transition from confusion to shock to horror as she was served with divorce papers, financial injunctions, and notice of criminal complaints in front of her entire family and social circle. Her father, a retired judge, immediately recognized what was happening. I saw him ask for the papers, scan them, then look up at Rose with devastation in his eyes. Her mother began to cry. I didn't stay to witness the full meltdown, just nodded to Karen, retrieved my coat, and walked out. Rose's carefully crafted image, devoted wife, mother, daughter, shattered in an instant, replaced by the reality of who she truly was. My phone started ringing before I reached my car. Rose, then her father, then Rose again. I turned it off, checked into a hotel I'd already reserved, opened a bottle of scotch, and finally allowed myself to feel the grief of losing the life I thought I had. The next morning, I turned my phone back on to 47 missed calls and dozens of text messages from Rose. "James, please call me. This is a misunderstanding. You're destroying our family over nothing. Think about the kids." Her father had called twice, her mother 5 times. I responded only to them with a brief text. "Check your email. I've sent you the video and evidence of the hidden accounts and recording devices. Ask Rose about her plans for your son they never had." The legal battle was swift and decisive. Rose's hidden accounts were frozen. Her lawyer withdrew from the case after learning of the recorded evidence and illegal surveillance. The prenup's financial fidelity clause was triggered by the deliberate hiding of assets and the bad faith planning against my interests, exactly as the agreement specified. Rose tried everything: tearful apologies, angry accusations, attempts to turn the children against me. But I'd prepared for that too. The night before serving her, I'd sat down with Ryan and shown him a carefully edited version of the video that included her financial plans, but not the hurtful sexual comments. Megan flew home from college for a similar conversation. It was the hardest thing I've ever done, but they deserved to know the truth before the chaos started. Both kids sided with me, devastated by their mother's calculated betrayal. Ryan asked to live with me full-time. Megan refused to speak to Rose for weeks. The divorce was finalized in near record time. Rose received a settlement aligned with the prenup's breach provisions, about 1/8 what she would have gotten after 20 years. No alimony, reduced child support since Ryan chose to live with me, and none of my business interests. She had to sell her portion of our investment properties to pay her legal fees. The secret accounts were deemed marital assets acquired through deception and divided accordingly, with penalties assessed against her share for the concealment. She kept her car, her jewelry, and personal items. I kept the house, my company, and my self-respect. It's been 6 months since that night at the country club. Rose moved into a small condo, had to get a job at a law firm, ironically as a paralegal again. She's still calling me, though less frequently now. The last message suggested we talk about reconciliation for the sake of the family. I didn't respond. Some betrayals can't be undone. Some wounds don't heal. Finding out your 15-year marriage was nothing but a long con changes you forever. Last week, I had dinner with Ryan and Megan. My son is thriving in his senior year, already accepted to his first-choice college. My daughter is doing well in school despite everything. They've both started speaking to their mother again, cautiously. I encourage this. She's still their mother, whatever else she might be. As for me, I've sold the house, too many memories, and bought a smaller place closer to my office. I'm dating casually, nothing serious. My company is growing faster than ever, now that I'm fully focused and no longer distracted by maintaining a sham marriage. Sometimes I wonder if Rose ever really loved me, or if it was always about the money. It doesn't matter now. What matters is that I discovered the truth before year 20, before she could cash out with half my life's work. The strangest part? I'm happier now than I've been in years. There's a certain freedom in having the illusions stripped away, in no longer performing for someone who sees you as an ATM rather than a husband. When people ask if I'm bitter about what happened, I tell them the truth. Gratitude has replaced anger. I'm grateful for that stolen package that led me to check the security footage. Grateful for the 20 seconds of honesty that saved me 5 more years of lies. And on the darkest days, I remind myself, it's better to be alone than to be with someone who has to gag to be with you. Edit. Wow, this blew up overnight. Thanks for the awards and support. Since many are asking similar questions, here are some answers. 1. Yes, I was able to legally record Rose in our home. Our state has clear laws about home security systems. We had visible cameras with posted notices throughout the house, and Rose was fully aware of their presence. There is no expectation of privacy in common areas of your own home when cameras are clearly disclosed. 2. Several asked why I didn't just quietly divorce her without the public scene. The answer is simple. Rose had been crafting a public image for years. She would have controlled the narrative, painted herself as the victim, and potentially turned many against me, including possibly our children. The public revelation ensured the truth was known immediately and undeniably. 3. For those suggesting I was harsh serving her at her parents' party, this was a calculated decision. Her parents had repeatedly pressured me about setting up Rose for the future, and I strongly suspected they knew about her plans. The video I sent them confirmed this. Her mother's subsequent texts included, "We never thought you would find out," rather than shock at Rose's behavior. Before, to clarify about the kids, both now know everything about the financial deception. Ryan, 17, watched the edited video showing her financial plans. For Megan, I described the content instead. Neither was shown the hurtful sexual comments. They didn't need that pain on top of everything else. My children are my priority, and despite Rose's actions, I never speak negatively about her to them. Number 5. Regarding how I found her secret accounts. The investigator traced transfers from our joint accounts, cross-referenced her tax returns which showed unreported interest income, and followed the money trail. Her statement on camera about having multiple accounts gave us the starting point, but the investigation uncovered the specifics. 6. For those calling me cold-blooded, when someone tells you who they are, believe them. Rose revealed her true self in that kitchen conversation. Everything that followed was simply me taking her at her word and acting accordingly. Sometimes the best revenge isn't about hurting someone else, it's about refusing to be hurt anymore.